Good afternoon, everybody. This is Jeff J. Brown in beautiful Shenzhen, China, for another China Rising Radio Sinoland podcast and interview. And today's is very special because it's not necessarily about China, but it is about change and hope for the future. I have on the line today Ms. Leanne Lindsay in New South Wales, Australia. How are you doing today, Lindsay? Leanne, I'm sorry.
I'm good, thanks, Jeff.
The reason I wanted to bring Leanne on here is because of, I don't know, a few months ago, she started retweeting my stuff when I do Twitters, and I started noticing her Twitter account, and it was named Red All Over 99. R-E-D is in the color red, and she was like just a tornado of activity and commitment and dedication and passion for communism and socialism. And I was so impressed because, let's be honest, in Western society there's so much opprobrium and so much, ill will towards communism and socialism, especially in the Anglophone countries, less so maybe in France and Italy. But I was just so impressed with her passion that I asked her on, and she gratefully accepted. So thank you very much, Leanne.
Thank you for asking me, Jeff.
Hey, listen, just to cut to the chase, a lot of us, like for me, it was a trip I took back in 2013 that kind of opened my eyes to how China was really doing some amazing things, and I was starting to accept the fact that China was not a capitalist country. What is it that drew you to communism and socialism? Did you have an epiphany or some, cataclysmic experience that happened to you? How did you arrive at becoming a communist and a socialist?
Accidentally, really. I was lucky enough to start a friendship with someone who was already a communist, and I was 16, and it just
gosh, that's unbelievable.
It made just absolutely perfect sense to me. It was like a light had been switched on, and I didn't bugger around too much. I joined the original, which is no longer in existence, the original Communist Party of Australia. So.
Wow. What happened? I mean, you were still a minor back then. What did your parents say? How did they react to you? I mean, did they try to punish you or kick you out of the house? Or?
No, my mother she wasn't political, but I left home not long after that anyway, and my nan, she told me that she'd been a member of the Wobblies back in her youthful days. Other than that, no, there was no real. My whole family always voted Labor.
Voted Labor, which for outsiders and outside of Australia, that would be considered to be the left wing, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And for our fans out there, the Wobblies is the International Workers of the World, which is a non-political but mainly involving the labor union organization. I'm proud to say I am a dues-paying member now for 1 year. I joined them a year ago because I really believe in what they're doing. So they have a very illustrious history going back into the 19th century. So.
Yeah, the 20s, I think, when my nan was. Would that be right? I didn't even know they still existed.
Oh yeah. They're big. Big. I mean, but they're still trying. I mean, they're still trying to organize the workers of the world. And for people out there, Nan, is that your grandmother?
Yeah,
okay.
My grandmother.
All right, gotcha. So no, just you met the right people. They made a lot of sense, and you got involved at a very young age, 15, 16 years of age. I don't know about Australia, but in fact, for many interviews, you have to answer. I have never been a part of the Communist Party. Blah 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 blah. It's a real stain on your sort of your professional and personal life. can cause rejection among a lot of people. Did that happen to you, after you became a communist? Did you
No, I didn't
have
really
any personal experiences that being a communist and a socialist, hurt you?
Well, much later I did when I applied for I tried to apply for a job in the union that I was a member of. I was a delegate in this union, probably Australia's most right-wing union. It's controlled and has been controlled for some time by the groupers, a very anti-communist Catholic right-wing group.
Okay.
You join the union that you have to join for wherever you're working, but they advertised at a union meeting that they would be creating a new job in the area where I live, as a recruiter, and they'd already been paying me to do this in Sydney where I was working. And I was great at it. So I immediately, when the meeting finished, I approached the union leadership and said, I'd love that job. I'll be applying for that. And later that night, I got a whispered phone call from my organiser saying that I wouldn't be getting the job. Not only wouldn't I be getting the job, but the job it no longer existed. And basically, I was a communist. Because I told them I'd had my organiser, and I used to sell the party paper at work, and I used to leave it in the tea room.
Okay. So because you applied for the job, they canceled the job announcement so that you couldn't get it.
Yes.
God, it's just unbelievable.
I was surprised because I'd never done any, I'd been a good union member. I'd got where I was working almost 100% union membership. And years later, my daughter applied for another trade union job, and that particular union was one of 3 unions that got to decide who got the job, and she got quite close to getting it, and I got a call from an old mate of mine who was quite high up in the New South Wales trade union movement, and he said that they weren't going to give it to her because of me.
Wow.
I was shocked, because it was quite a while after, and they couldn't really, that they even remembered me. But anyway.
Wow. So basically, it sounds about like the United States.
Yeah, but this is coming from what you would consider. I mean, look, I knew that back, when I joined, the one thing they said, if you join the Communist Party, you won't be able to travel to America. I used to want to go to Disneyland as a young child till I realised where Disneyland was.
You stuck to your principles. So it cost you a job and it cost your daughter a job. Wow, that's unbelievable. Well, what's the current state of the Communist Party in Australia and the Socialist Party? What's going on?
Well, the original Communist Party that had a fantastic, glorious history dissolved, it liquidated itself. The branch that I was in, we mainly young people. I was actually the secretary of the branch back in the day, and we moved a motion of no confidence in the leadership of the party rather than go through the Congress documents as you do with democratic. You go through one by one and put up your amendments. We started to do that, and it was so bad. We're like, oh no, we'll just move a motion of no confidence. So I think the oldest branch member was probably 20. So we did that, and it caused a huge fight. They sent people down from Sydney, had all these things involved, and threw most of us out.
Wow. Okay.
They dissolved themselves anyway a few years after that. I think they formed the New Left Party, which didn't exist for very long. But I joined the Socialist Party of Australia, I think a couple of years after we got expelled from the old CPA, and I worked for them for some years. I was a party printer. We parted ways. But, I don't want to bag them, but there were two very distinct camps, and the camp that I was aligned with, although they no longer exist, most of them are dead anyway. And
wow.
there's political differences. But,
Wow. There's the Socialist Party of the USA, and there's the Trotskyite Party, and there's the Communist Party of the USA, and there's the Workers' Party of the USA, and but they can't register, they can't get candidates, on the ballots in most of the states. They're excluded, and so
it's hard. They keep making it a lot harder. They keep making it a lot harder for the smaller parties to register.
Yeah. Yeah, nothing like fearing real democracy. Unbelievable. So, to bring the Australians to have such a similar morbid fear of irrational fear of communism and socialism, did Australia go through a kind of a Joe McCarthyite, witch hunt, and where thousands of people lost their jobs and thousands of people were disenfranchised, and were there pogroms like that, or how did it happen?
Well, I know that Menzies, who was nicknamed Pig Iron Bob, he banned the Communist Party, but that was overturned. So we had a referendum back in the early 50s to ban the Communist Party, and the Australian people voted no. They wouldn't support banning the Communist Party. They only just won, but it's pretty significant.
Yeah. The fact that a majority of the people were not ready to vote against it, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, there's some Labor history in Australia, and some great Communist Party. But, I have no regrets from being both sides.
Leanne, can you talk? Can you get in front of the mic a little bit better?
That better?
Yeah, thank you.
I'm pretty quiet.
What did you just say? We lost you.
There's Australia has some great communist history, some great trade union history too, and especially my area. We've had some way before my time, but some really great communists too. I met some wonderful comrades in the Socialist Party of Australia, which is now known as they changed their name to the Communist Party of Australia, and they're mostly dead now. I have to say that, but I learnt some wonderful things, and actually named my son after who was president of the Socialist Party.
Oh, cool! That's quite an honor.
He actually went to jail before I was born for non-payment of union fines. Him and another local man in where I live, who's like a legend in his own time, Fred Moore.
Yeah.
Could you imagine? I don't know a trade union leader alive in the West that would do that these days.
Yeah. Yeah, most of them are co-op. I mean, the unions in the United States are just corporate shills. I mean, it's embarrassing. And they're just prostitutes for Wall Street. It's just awful. It's the union movement in the United States is debased, debauched, and totally corrupt. Except for the International Workers of the World, they're the only real union that's really trying to help the little guy. The big name ones are just awful. So. Well, with everything being decimated like that, are you a member of a party now? Do you mind telling us?
There is another Communist Party that they call themselves a CPAML. They're really a Maoist party, and in all my years of activity, both in where I live and in Sydney, they're still very secretive. So I don't know if they actually exist in my area.
Okay.
There's trillions of Trotskyite parties that are quite, they're very anti-communist actually. They've been anti just about every.
Yeah.
don't have anything much to do with them.
So it sounds like there's no members, there's no communists or socialists in the national parliament.
Oh no.
Or any of the state parliaments.
No,
Okay.
not.
Sounds about like the United States.
I did a lot of research a few years ago for the peak trade union body in my area, free, unpaid of course, and I actually got to go in, which anyone can do, you need permission, into the archives at the local uni and also at the library. And I came across some stuff in our library from the 1940s, I think it was, my memory. And this was the local paper, and each week in the local paper they would have a whole section on Marxism.
Really?
And it wasn't like, Joe Blow talking about Marx. It was Marx. It was, whole sections of Marx. And, we used to get 40,000 plus in my city, which really on the world stage is a village. It's that, it's not enormous, but I love it. Up to 40,000 plus people marching on May Day.
Wow.
I know, now we're lucky to get 400.
Isn't that incredible?
Yeah.
So it seems like the demonization and the annihilation of the radical left in Australia has been just as thorough and just as effective as it has been in the United States.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, how do you stay politically active locally?
Well, to my shame and embarrassment, the last couple of years I've been quite slack and lazy, but at just the recent May Day march, I bumped into a couple of old friends, because I'm out of the workforce, I'm an injured worker, but they invited me to join their group, which is for retired unionists, so I'll be quite young, which is good. It's, out of the workforce, but not out of the struggle, and I'm gonna go along to that.
All right. Well, I'm sure there'll be the belle of the ball.
I think I've been slack enough now. A couple of years off. I think that.
Well, if you've been injured, you need to get well. Well, listen. The main reason I got you on here is you are an absolute tornado of energy and commitment, and with your Twitter, and of course I'll put your Twitter account in the original article with our interview. You cover China, you cover Russia, you cover Iran, you cover Syria. You are a full, a tour de force of anti-imperialism, Western colonialism. Communism and socialism has been completely, destroyed in Australia. I don't know about the United States. It's pretty token in most of the Western European countries, etc. What do we do? By the way, and I do want to go on record as saying, not only did I join the Wobblies, the International Workers of the World, last year, I also joined the Communist Party of France. It took me a long time. I kept, berating, haranguing against imperialism and war and colonialism, and it finally occurred to me, just a couple of years ago, as I was writing China Rising, that it all revolves around capitalism, and everything, every ill in the world, revolves around capitalism and the relentless pursuit for profit at any cost. And so that's why I joined the Communist Party, because I was really trying to at least make an official statement for social and economic justice for all peoples around the world, and that's also why I joined the Wobblies. So what do we do, Leanne? Here you and I are. How do we raise the consciousness of people? How do we inspire people to be courageous and stand up for, against imperialism and capitalism if people have an interest in that?
It's almost like we have to go back to scratch, and it's a big question. I really, these days, if you're in the workforce, join it. Even if it's the most terrible union, at least when you're in the union, it gives you contact with other unionists. Don't just join your union. Try and become the delegate. If you get to become the delegate, do a good job. If there is a Communist Party, make contact with them.
Yeah.
Some Communist parties, if you don't want to join the Communist Party, some Communist parties have non-party groups. We don't, as far as I know, we don't here, but I think they certainly used to. Some Communist parties have youth groups. We used to have the Young Socialist League, people that weren't quite ready to join the party. Don't read any Western press.
Isn't it awful? By the way, I'd like to point out China also has the Communist Youth League, and every Chinese child it joins when they start grade school. And yeah, isn't the mainstream press just that is really a truism, Leanne. Go cold turkey and quit listening to, watching, reading the mainstream press. It's just
poison. It's slowly dripping poison into your mind. That's how I see it.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what. I'll ask you. I'll put in the article my favorite websites and send me yours, and I'll post those so that people can see what we read. I think we're probably just as informed about world events and current events as everybody else, but the way I look at it is I want to see how the 85% of the Western humanity, the United States and Europe make up 15% of the people. Well, and throw in Australia and New Zealand if you want. And so I want to find out what the other 85% believe and see.
You look at the Iranian press that I read, FARS, their position, it's not always perfect. I mean, no one is really. But mostly, their position is far more left-wing than just even the so-called left press of the West.
Yeah.
And some of their headlines alone, I think, because I used to do that when I worked for the party, I would help with the headlines for the paper. And some of their headlines are just brilliant. No mucking around. I mean, I think it was this morning, one of the headlines had, something about the U.S. Imperial foot soldiers,
Yeah, which is true. So,
I actually like Iran a lot. Very supportive of Iran. I'd like to go there one day.
Yeah, well, Raman Mazahari, I just did an interview with him. He did I'll send you the article where he talks about. It was on the Saker, where he talked about how Iran, even though it may be a Muslim, but it's definitely a socialist country, and then it should be called that. So, is there going to be a global revolution, or in your lifetime, or your children's lifetime?
That whole global revolution, that's more of a Trotsky thing. It will be one
It'd be local
at a time. But honestly, looking at the world, I don't know if I think that the Russia and China multipolar, I think that's a great.
Yeah.
I actually love the way Trump's upsetting the relationship between the US and the EU. I think we've got to see that as a positive. Any weakening of that, well, it's not even an alliance. I mean, I don't think that the US they don't have partners. They have underlings.
They have satrap client states.
Yeah.
No allies, just client states.
Yeah. So any damage that Trump's doing, I see that as a positive thing.
Yeah, and also damage to NATO.
Yes, fantastic.
Yeah.
You watch all the liberal so-called, left on social media crying about it, and it's like, you should be, if so left, you should be celebrating this. And then they talk about the free world. I mean, really?
Yeah. Well, I live in China. It's really funny. My daughter, last summer we went back to France, and our daughter came here in 2010 with us, our second time around, and she was an 8th grader, and now she's going to college here. But so she was a young teenager. We were back in France for about a month, and we were sitting there, and she's going, Daddy, I actually feel freer in China than I do here in France. And that's true. I mean, you have to come to a country like China or Cuba or Iran or someplace like that to really understand, another definition of freedom. And I sure feel freer here than I do in the West.
Mm.
So your advice is give up mainstream media.
Yeah.
Start trying to join a union if you can.
Even union's better than no. You've got to be where the people are.
Yeah. And
you,
your other recommendation is to reach out, to talk to some people who are communists and socialists, and just see what they have to say.
And read Stalin. I didn't finish high school, so there was some, and still, sometimes there's stuff I struggle. I didn't finish high school. I certainly didn't go to university. You won't learn Marxism in a Western university, by the way.
That's for sure. George Carlin used to joke about that a lot in his comedy routines. Yeah, read China Rising.
Yes.
Read my website.
I slowed, as I do, and I'm really enjoying books. I slow right down at the end because you don't want to finish. I've been really enjoying and have learned a lot from that book.
Oh, yeah. The book I wrote, China Rising.
Yeah.
Capitalist Road. So, well, thank you so much. That's sweet of you to take the time to read it. Yeah, China, I think, and Russia and Iran are at the summit of hope, and then smaller countries like Cuba and Eritrea in Africa and North Korea and some Venezuela, Bolivia, Ecuador, the ALBA group. There's a few of them out there who are trying and are trying to see a different vision than just bloodless capitalism, but it's a fight the whole way. I mean, the U.S. and Europe are trying to overthrow every one of them, and so it's relentless.
If you can sing you're in China, you don't have far to go. The Democratic People's Republic, Jeff. I think you'd love it.
I would love what, Leanne?
They call it North Korea.
Yeah, I'd like to go sometime. I just haven't had time to arrange it yet.
You catch a train. The train trip is incredible.
Okay. Well, I've had friends who traveled there, and I would love to go.
It's long. I think it took us 27 hours, but it was wonderful.
Okay, cool. Well, listen, Leanne, this has been very inspiring for me. I've gone through a radical arc of evolution in my thinking coming back to China in 2010. And when I see people like you, and I go, gosh, I wish I was 15 when I if someone had given me China Rising, or I had met some different people, and I didn't, and I can't go back and change the past. But I just encourage you, start following Leanne's Twitter account. Read China Rising, my website. I'll put on her websites that she recommends. I'll put on my websites that I recommend, and turn off BBC and The Guardian and all these other phony, these phony CIA-dominated news sources. false news sources. So thank you so much for coming on. I know I know you've got family, and I really appreciate you coming on. I want to and just really happy to have you on. And I'm going to go to bed tonight a little bit more motivated and a little bit more hopeful.
No worries, Jeff, and I'm awaiting your next book.
Yeah, China is communist, damn it. Yeah, that it just came out about 2 weeks ago, and thank you so much for ordering it. I'm really flattered. It'll be a nice sequel to China Rising. So, thank you. Listen, keep up the good work, keep up the good fight, and let's just keep pushing on, okay?
All right.
Hey, take care, Leanne. Thank you.
You too. Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Jeff. See ya.